Welcome to the Game Breakers podcast, where we look at bringing you the tips and insights and experiences from the world of sport. My name is Rob Nicolay, and today I'm joined by my co-host Danny Wilson. But today our guest is none other than former Halifax, Leeds Rhinos, and most notably Bradford Bulls and St Helens player, as well as Huddersfield Giants League League winners coach, and of course current England Knights and Warrington Wolves academy coach Paul Anderson. Welcome, Paul. Thanks for coming on.
Cheers, Rob. Danny, good to see you.
Yeah, new Paul. Thanks, mate. Rob, can you say league leaders again?
Yeah, that's right. League leaders, winners. Yeah, there we go. Sweet. Like you say, so I think Danny touched on it earlier just before we'd started, but just sort of getting into it and knowing you as a person, just as much as a player and a coach. So to kick off, really, the first one is a bio for yourself and just describing yourself as the man, the son, the father, and the player and the coach. How would you describe yourself?
Give me a prompt there then. Which was the first one? Because you reeled it off pretty quick.
So Paul Anderson as the man. Go on.
The man. Honest. I think that's a big thing from me. That's something as a player, I didn't think I always got told the truth about myself. So that's one of the things now from myself, moving with my family and whatever, probably buys into the other things that you said there, that I just want to be honest. That's the thing. So as a man, I want to be honest. And I feel like I've been lucky as well.
Is that one of your cornerstones, Paul, that you run through, being a son, being a father, everything, that falls through everything in your life?
Yeah. It's something that goes through being a husband, being a wife as well, then, which
sometimes.
So being a husband and a dad, and obviously coaching as well. I think there's got to be something that links everything that you're about, that makes you as a person. And I think the thing for me is that honesty is the key. Like I was saying there, is sometimes as a player, from coaches, they just trying to spin you a yarn, and you think you walk out of a meeting where you've been dropped or you've been picked or contract talks and stuff like that. And if you be honest, you didn't know what day it was. And it was like, why can't they just tell me I'm either being retained or offer me this? This is a brass tacks. This is what we're going to do, or we're going to let you go, or we're dropped, or whatever it may be. And I think that's something there from when my missus knows me better than anybody. And dinner shit, I'll tell her. So I think that's
from another room.
No. But to be fair, that tide's turned now because I do all the cooking. So it's she tells me. So it's it's just, I think there's got to be something that ties all that together. And I think there's levels, obviously, as a son and as a father and a husband and stuff like that. Sometimes you'll dress it up, but ultimately the message has got to be clear.
Outstanding. You've achieved so much in your career, Paul, so much as a player and now as a coach. Grand finals, Challenge Cup successes, Great Britain international appearances, everything like that. But it started somewhere, and you've been on a bit of a journey. I was wondering if you kind of take us through what that journey looked like from being a youth rugby player till establishing yourself as a regular Bull during that kind of period of Bull mania.
Yeah, I think one of the things more than anything is coming from Castleford, being a Castle lad. It's back then. I feel old now, which I know I am, but there's only one thing you ever wanted to do, and that was play rugby, and secondly was play for Cass. That was the thing, and being a bit bigger human than usual people, I think that helped me drift towards the game. I remember one of my friends' dads just said, "Come and play." We were coaching at Red Hill at the time or something, and I just went up and played, and 40 odd years later, I'm still doing it. So it's that's what it was. Playing junior football in around Castleford, that's all you ever wanted to do. You go to school the next day and wear your black eye and your scars, you wear them with pride, which made you think you'd been in a big game and stuff like that, and actually put your head where it hurts. And junior football in and around Castleford, playing that. Never really felt like I was a great player or anything like that. Just I knew I was bigger than everybody else, so that made it a little bit easier. And moving through, I was very fortunate when I got to like 16, 17 years old that in Castleford at the time there was only really two teams, which was Red Hill and Loch Lane. It's a bit different now with Cas Panthers and stuff like that, whereas Red Hill's gone. And what it was is Andy Hayes' dad, John, he was coaching with a fellow called Dennis Hartley, who sadly recently just passed away. He was the former Great Britain front rower, Castleford, Hunslet, all that type of stuff. I think he won the World Cup as well, Dennis. He played with my uncle, was Fred Ward, who was he was Hunslet player coach in '65 when they went to Wembley, and he took a bit of a shine to me at that age and took me under his wing a little bit, give some, not so much fatherly advice, but the old pro type stuff, armed around you, this is what to do. He said to you stuff like, when you're scrumming, if he's being a bit of a dick or anything like that, put your head here and push, it hurts, and all this type of stuff. And the old warhorse, he'd got the scars, and he took me under his wing a little bit. And back then, because of the rivalry in Loch Lane and Red Hill, like it was 15s, 17s, 19s, all that type of stuff. Every other year you'd move from Loch Lane to Red Hill. So 15s you'd be with Red Hill, then 17s you'd be with Loch Lane, then 19s you were back with Red Hill. That's how it was. You're fun policing that at the minute, weren't you? But with that,
Just lost you.
Yeah, just lost you.
Just lost you then, Paul. Sorry, when you said you moved from.
Yeah, you was moving from club to club a little bit there, or from team to team. The team stayed the same. It was the same kids that just moved from one club to the other, and some sort of agreement between them. But Dennis, during the week there, when it got to under 17s, under 19s, I think it was, there was like they called it DDA League. So you actually went down on a Wednesday and played for Castleford. So you played in Castleford colours, you played at Weldon Lane or the Jungle, whatever it is. You play against Wigan, you play against Oldham, you play against probably Hull teams as well back then. Mm-hmm. And from my point of view, it was like, just go and play Featherstone and stuff. That Featherstone team had like Sir Paul Newell and whatever in. So there was fair amounts of good competition. I was fortunate to play in that, coached by Dennis and John A. And I don't know the exact numbers, but so we played 7 games that year, and I think I got man at match in nearly most of them. So back then they'd do a presentation in the clubhouse and you get given a tie. So I'd got all these ties somewhere. And 17-year-old kid in the 80s or whatever, he's given a tie, that's the last thing you needed. So, but anyway, it is what it is. And I remember moving then from that into the professional game is that I think that last year when I was there was probably one of the last years that Dennis coached, because as I understand it is that he had a massive argument with Castleford as a club. So they wouldn't sign me. And that's the only everything I wanted to do. And I played a couple of games in their A team and stuff like that. And Dennis had a massive argument. And I'm not sure of the detail on this, but I think he had some sort of rift and his relationship was never the same again with regards to his coaching. And anyway, I never signed for Castleford. And I did a couple of training sessions with them, and Darryl van der Velde at the time, he invited me to come and do some training. So I went, and like I said, being a rather large human, didn't quite buy into the training. It used to be summer training sessions back then, and it was all 5 and 10k runs. And one thing I hate is running, even though I've been a former sportsman. And I was pathetic, if I'm being honest, as that type of stuff. And Darryl, to be fair to him, this combines into that stuff before about just telling me where I'm at. Probably didn't realise it at the time, but Darryl, instead of sitting me down and saying, look, mate, not for you at this point, or you're not for us, sent me a letter. So sent me a letter and telling me that in his opinion I'd never make it as a professional rugby league player. Right. And you know, the biggest regret I've got in my life at the minute is I haven't got that letter. I wish I'd have kept it.
Yeah.
And, should have put it in a frame and put it on the wall, and every day I look at it and somebody's telling me it's something you can't do. I've just been watching the Michael Jordan stuff at the minute. I'm not putting myself on his level, by the way, but that's what he did. He always wanted a challenge, and that's what spurred into that next level. And from that point of view, then after that, I went to like an open trial type thing at Leeds Rhinos, or Leeds Rugby as it was then. Scout asked me to go along. Went from there. Then David Ward, who was the coach, saw me there. Asked me to play in the A team. Played a couple of games in the A team and got signed on at Leeds Rhinos. So and that was probably around about 18-year-old. It wasn't at the 14-year-old that we're getting in our systems at the minute, or 16-year-olds. It was fairly late. So it was interesting. Very, very
must take some pride. First, when you're telling that story, there's a lot of emotion in that, and the people that helped you along the way, Paul. And then obviously that's, regardless keeping that letter or not, you know, you've had that in your mind, and look back now, you must have some pride in what you've achieved.
Well, going back on that one, is just that letter. Up until that point, Darryl van der Velde and things like that, I always had it in the back of my mind, but never probably really got the opportunity to say thank you to him. And believe it or not, when I think it was 2017, to be some way put during 2018, me and Dave Rotherham with the England Knights when I was working with the RFL, we had to go do a recce at Papua New Guinea. So we went out there. I think it was 9 flights in 7 days or something like that, which was interesting. And we went to one of the PNG Hunters game, and Dal van der Velde is one of the directors of the QRL now, Queensland Rugby League. So he's director of something, I'm not quite sure. So we're in the box and stuff like that. Been treated well. PNG was a great country. In walks Darryl. Anyway, so I'm stood there talking, and he's come over and things like that. And we're talking, and you have a couple of beers, you sat watching the game and stuff, and it was about 100 degrees. So I was sat in, I had to wring my undies out at half time, it was that hot. And
not nerves then?
No. So I just said to him, I just thought to him, I was just sat there, and as soon as I saw him, I thought, right, I'm going to have to say something here, which buys a little bit back to me, just getting something off my chest. And I just said to him, I said, mate, I need to thank you. And we were like, what to what? I said, you probably might not remember this, but I was a kid at Cas when you was there, and I went through the scenario with him again and stuff like that. And you tell you're looking at him and he's thinking, what the hell are you on about here? So just, and the other thing that makes you realise then now as a coach is some of the little things that you say and do, the profound effect that they can have people, and the long-lasting effect that they can have on people as well. Yeah. I thanked him, and we talked about it, and he couldn't remember, if I'm being honest, but that one letter that was probably scribbled on a piece of paper that took literally 30 seconds to write was probably the fire that got me through to where I was, or probably where I am, to be fair.
There's a couple of things in that, Paul, and obviously now in your role as a coach, and you probably having to deliver them messages in some way to players that maybe at that time aren't quite good enough. So there's that, what allows you to have that understanding. And then the second caveat to that is, well, you came back, and for young players, they can do, if anybody can follow that trend, and just because somebody's opinion isn't highly obvious doesn't mean to say that that's going to be everybody's.
Yeah, I'm not saying that everybody's got a story out there. I'm a big believer in, when I was at Huddersfield, I worked with a performance coach called Carl Morris. I'd class him as a friend now, still talk to him, text all the time, and he talked all the time, and this what helped fuel things with us at Huddersfield when we got the job was our story. What's our story? And everybody has a story. So where we are, from where we were to where we are, it's part of our journey and it's our legacy. Whatever title you want to put to it, but I like talking about the story. And that one thing helped me put the story together that I have. And every little things, like we talked there about football career, from one club to another to another to another and all that type of stuff. They're all different chapters in your story. And it's how you have a choice if you break the story down. You have a choice in deciding how each page is written. And one other thing, and then obviously once you write one chapter, you can go to the next one, and you have a choice in regards to not only what page it is, but what next word's written. So you have a choice in everything that you do within your life. And some things are tough decisions, some things are not. But I think one of the things that these experiences help with young players, and the young players don't understand this. You just see it as somebody who tells them what to do or tries to help them with stuff. They don't understand that you're telling them from experience. When you're telling them, look, if you're going to make a mistake here, believe me, this is going to be the outcome. Well, what do you know? Well, I've actually made that mistake probably 100 times myself. But part of my job is to make sure that if you make that mistake twice, I'm probably doing the wrong job. I'm not doing my job properly, if that makes sense. Back in the day, you don't get the support mechanism. We were just talking about how we try and think about supporting players. Obviously, we can't do it at the minute with all this furlough and stuff, but you care about them, so you want to try and help them. So I think they don't realise that actually you're not telling them. You're trying to inform them and educate them through experience, not through this is black and white and this is what should be done, this is what you should do in a game. And through experience, you realise that actually the game's not black and white, it's fairly grey, but opinions can be that way. So you've got to tell them when they're doing right and wrong, all that type of stuff, if that makes sense. Absolutely. You touched on there club to club and different chapters in your book. Talk to me about the Bradford Bull chapter and what that was like. Yeah, it's great. It was good, really good. I think I talked about it from before is that at some point within our stories and stuff like that, you hit a point and you actually see it strikes a chord with you, and you find a home, if I'm being honest. Leeds, when I was a kid, was a massive club. Managed to play 30 or 40, 50 games. I don't know the exact numbers. But then moving from there to Halifax, which was chalk and cheese, it was so different from one big club to a smaller club up in Calderdale, where it was ridiculous. And then going to Bradford, which was this big entertainment machine. And then the players that was in there, and all the razzmatazz that was going around the club and stuff like that, never really got back to the players. The players embraced it. The players actually good and actually want to rip into it and embraced it. Now, I can remember one of my first games at Bradford, going in there and thinking, what am I doing here? Why did they sign me? You go in and you're looking around the roster and you're looking around the change rooms and stuff like that. And then actually, after a period of time, you get going and you think, well, this is probably why they signed me. I can remember when I signed on the Thursday and there was a game on the Friday. And I think it was round one in 1997, it was. They played Warrington, it was a full house, and obviously as a new signing, they looked after your VIP treatment and all that type of stuff, and I actually thought to myself, why? I think they went and beat Warrington by 50 in that first game, and I was like, well, it's going to be a long year this, you're not going to break into this team, and it was all from that point of view. The way they cared about it is there's a lot of people there that actually did a lot for you away from the field as well as on it, and that allowed you then to go and enjoy yourself. And the way that team and squad was built was unreal. It was built and based upon one thing, which was size. That's probably why they signed me. So that's when I was a kid.
Just on that, so like you say, what was your role, would you say, within that successful team? What allowed you to do so well when you talk about trying to break into that team?
Well, I can remember that year, there was, I think a week or two later, I played a couple of, it was quite funny to be fair. Steve Sims, Bradford had come from me the year before when Brian Smith was there. I've since found out, obviously, and I only found this out when I went to meet Matty Elliott before I signed at Bradford, and he said, oh, you know that Brian Smith wanted to bring you last year and Halifax stopped it, and I was like, no. So I was on contract, and so there was a lot of up and downs from me at Halifax at the time. There was a lot of illness and stuff like that, and went to meet Matty, and one of the things that was keeping me at Halifax was Steve Sims. He was the head coach at the time, and obviously somebody at Hull, Carl Harrison, he was there at Halifax as well. And I think what Simsy saw was young bull, old bull type mentality. He knew Carl Harrison was getting to a certain age. He was probably 30 plus at that point, and I was early 22, 23 year old, whatever it is. And he probably, the roles there was Rhino was getting me ready to take his place, whether he knew it or not. But Simsy basically kept saying no. And then the day after Simsy got sacked, I got a phone call from the chairman at the time and said, right, Bradford have come for you again, you're off. We've accepted the offer. So I think there's things like that usually happen. And going there and actually speaking to Matty Elliott and realising these things, and him sitting there and telling you what he thinks you can do, it was quite interesting. And the negotiations, the financial things were done between me and Matty Elliott in about 5 minutes. No agents or anything like that. This is what the money is. I said, well, no, I want a bit more. Right, yeah, here we go. Here it is. Right, yeah. Signed a 3-year deal. But when I signed, I'm trying to break into that team. The first thing I did was get to play reserves against Halifax. They paid, I think, it was like $70,000 transfer fee for me, something like that. I did Bradford at the time. So it was a fair investment. And the reward for that was going and playing reserves at From All at the time. So I was like, you know, what's going on here? So I got a shitload of abuse off the Halifax players. $70,000 to play reserves and all this type of shit. And it was like, but I knew what Matty was doing. He just wanted to, basically at that point, is what they're a different level of professionalism in regards to the coaching. First time really actually. And this is something with young players at the minute is that when they come to academies and stuff like that, it's actually opening their eyes up to some of the detail of the game, because all their lives they're just going to play the game, aren't they? So it's the smartness from us is trying to make sure that actually not forgetting what we've brought them here to do and what their traits are, rather than just try and coach them to a stereotype. Which unfortunately that's what we try and do. We try and follow the NRL, don't we? We try and create players what they want. I think let's beat them at our game, not their game. So just working with that and getting your eyes open to some of the aspects of the game, and it was unreal. And actually, I can remember once I missed a tackle on playing Sheffield, and it was one game, and Matty Elliott's got the video, and I'm sat there and I'm thinking, just get it over with. And he rewound it, played it, rewound it, played it, rewound it, played it. And I'm sat there, I'm thinking, fuck me, Matty, come on. Yeah, I'm not, mate. Yeah, I'm not good enough there. I've got to be better. Yeah, I'll work on it. He rewound it and played it. I was like, Jesus Christ. It was like probably one of the first times really that we won the game by 40 points, but his message was loud and clear. Basically, that we play Saints next week. That happened. We lose the game. It makes you think about what you're going to do and stuff. And I was like, come on, Matty, move on. Got you. Yeah. Anyway, rewound it, played it, rewound it. He must have done it 10 times. And he just went at the end and he went, and he showed 2 clips of me. I scored 2 tries in that game. And he just went, you won up. So you owed us that one, so you got 1 up. But good job you did that. I was like, all right, yeah, cheers, mate. So I let one in and scored 2, so that put us 1-0 up apparently in his mind.
Just worked at the try scoring from that day on.
I had a nice little combination there with Jimmy Lowe's. It was a Bernard Dwyer player who used to call it spin play on try line. And if you got it right, it was hard to stop. You've got low and attacking, basically try and get knees down the defences these days. We cheat too much around marks on try line to get away with it. So, but yeah, that the things that going there was, how do I break into that team? It was just got to the end of stripes and go and play. And there was a Challenge Cup semi-final, and I think they played on the Saturday. So in '97, I was cup tied because I played, I think it was OKR for Halifax. We got beat at OKR. OKR when the dog chat was around the field. So the field was about 30 metres wide by 60 metres long. It was tiny. It was a mud bath. And we got beat. So I played in that game, so wasn't eligible to play in the Challenge Cup. So I couldn't play in the semi-final. I don't think I'd have been picked anyway, but on the Tuesday night after that Saturday, we got to play Castleford in a rearranged game, so that was my debut. And so the rest is history. Then played that year, we won 20 games straight. I think I played in most of them, and won first real year of going there. We won the competition. It was interesting baptism, let's say, of trying to get into that machine and when it was rolling. So the other thing was that as well is that when I went to Bradford, once I got in that team, that was at 24-year-old, was the real first time I'd actually become a regular within the team, playing consistently every week, rather than being in, play reserves. The things that young players do. You've got to be some exceptional talent at 18, 19, 20, 21 to actually be playing every week. And obviously I wasn't one of them, which I never professed to be. And it was like I said, the first time, and at the end of that first year of '97, I was absolutely knackered because we played more games than I probably had done in the last 8 years.
Just on the back of that, obviously the memories that you've got within 2 really successful teams. What was your sort of greatest memories about those grand finals, and then challenge successes as a player?
The best memory I've got of my career is growing up as a kid. I remember it was from a mum and dad divorced when I was pretty young and stuff like that. So I was always living with my mum, and she did everything she could to try and provide, and never went without. So thanks to her for all that. And I always remember watching the Challenge Cup Saturday afternoons, watching the game. And one of my first real memories was around about 12 or 13-year-old was Featherstone v Hull. Was it '83 final? When I think David Hobbs scored a couple of tries, and I'm talking to old lads here, but but that's like the biggest memory. I think that was one of the things that actually thought to me, I love this game, love being part of it. And from that point of view, it was like every Saturday afternoon in, I think it was May or June, or whatever the cup final used to be. Might be way wrong dates off the that, but it Saturday afternoon Challenge Cup. That was all you ever wanted to do. Everybody ever wanted to play at Wembley. And in 2000 at Bradford, it came to fruition for me. We played Leeds at Murrayfield. Just a little story for you there is Challenge Cup. I've been very, very fortunate. I think, as I said, I don't know the detail, but I think I've won it 3 times or 2 or 3 times and lost it probably the same amount of times. So I've been lucky enough to be involved in them finals. But my first Challenge Cup final was the first one that was taken away from Wembley. My last Challenge Cup final was the last one before it went back. So I never really, your boyhood dream of playing at Wembley, Never came to fruition, but I've coached there as an assistant with Huddersfield in 09, so that scratched an itch that's there. It's that 2000 Challenge Cup final at Murrayfield. That was fairly special, very, very special. It was the first real trophy. We played in the grand final the year before in '99 and got beat. See at St. Peter's, dominant team all year in '99 and got beat in the big show. And then went the year after and won the big one at Murrayfield.
Standing.
A lot of very good memories there for you, Paul, with your cup wins and stuff, especially at Bradford in that dominant period. What was a move like to Saints, and how did you cope with that? Whether it be took it head on, or it was something that you was reluctant to do. How did you cope with that move, and what came on the back of that?
One of the things with that is I think that move to Saints didn't really ever come around till last minute. I think it was 2004. We played at Bradford. Obviously, at Bradford in 2003, we cleaned up. We won the grand final, won the Challenge Cup, and league leaders and all that type of stuff. So, managed to do the treble, or I don't even know if that's what it's called, but we won all 3 trophies. And going into 2004, I was coming off contract and was going into being 33. Struggling, got chronic knee problems. I've got nerve damage in my arm from a broken arm and plates put in and stuff like that. And that's the sexy side nobody sees of professional sport. And pre-season, I can remember thinking something's not right here. So I was doing training and stuff like that, and like when you start doing things, never really got pushed forward for anything. And I was never anybody who just that's right, and then get to the back. I'd just take things in my stride, I think, which probably helped me with my coaching, to be fair. And I could feel something's not right. So we got to trial games, and I was on the bench on one, and got on for about 5 minutes in one game. And then I went to see Brian Noble and said, what's going on? He said, don't worry, everything, your time will come and all this stuff. Steve McNamara was just coming on to the coaching stuff, and Macca was challenging everybody on off-ball things and stuff like that. And I know myself, I watch all these Super League goal things now and see clips of myself and whatever, and I think to myself, what were you doing? Now, if I was coaching me, I wouldn't get picked. And it's just them different challenges, and it's a different game, to be fair, back then. And started then, and I was like, played another game and got 15 minutes. So I was like, something's not right here. So I went and saw Nobby, and he says, no, he says, you're starting against Penrith in the World Cup Challenge. I was like, in 2 games I've played 20 minutes, and then all of a sudden you're throwing me in here and this, that, and the other. And I was like, right, yeah, good. So all of a sudden you've gone in there for a battle in regards to what's going on, and you come out with a golden egg because you managed to start in a big game. And I remember the start of that game. Can't remember much about the game other than being quick. All I can remember is we received the kickoff and the ball came to my side. I just looked at the line and thought, right, one of my traits on your favourite carry set starts were brilliant because the defence is stood and you can get to both people. The ball's in the air and I'm looking and I'm thinking, right, I picked somebody out in the line, and it was Craig Gower, to be fair, Origin Australia player and stuff like that. I just thought, right, you big fella's going over top of it and you're having it. Depending on what comes off here. Anyway, I managed to run straight over top of him and play tackle 2 was on halfway, so the game's up and running. And in my mind, it was halfway. It was probably 20 metres, but it felt like I made a break. And anyway, that was that. And played that game and then a couple more games, and really struggling with my arms and stuff. But off the back of that was, coach came to me at the time and says, look, he says, we want to extend you. So I was like, beautiful, 33. He says, I'm going to give you a 2-year deal, no more money. I was like, perfect. Text me to my testimonial, I'm happy with that. Testimonial, retire off back of that, that's me done. That'll take me to just short of 35. Happy, done. Been very, very fortunate. Can start thinking about other things then, because you've got that immediate future sorted. You can then start looking at the picture beyond that. Anyway, time was going on that year and you're looking at it and you go to Nobby and you go, what's happening, mate? Yeah, I'm on it, mate, don't worry. Right, yeah, no worries. Time goes on. What's happening, mate? Yeah, don't worry about it. So some more time goes on and you go to it and you go, going on Nobby, well, the boardroom in an hour now. So I'm like, right. And I won't name the player, but somebody said to me, with a player, a fairly high-profile player, said something to me, and I was like, this is all on reflection. You think about it, and it's something like the Van der Velde thing that stuck in your mind. And one of the senior players just went, "You're after a 2-year deal, knee and arm and stuff like that, and you're knackered and this, that, and the other." Just like that and walked away. So I was like, all right, so somebody's saying something to you that's not saying it to me. So obviously that theory of what's going on, honesty. Anyway, time comes and I actually then goes to him and says, right, what's going on again? Our boardroom and hiring and all this. I'm telling you, you'll come back and hurt him and all this. And so I was like, right, yeah, no worries. Anyway, at that point, I've not thought about anything else with any other club. They actually considered retirement and we're trying to tee something else up, actually a job, trying to get a job and work and stuff like that, walk away from the game. It's about sliding doors moments and stuff. So Abiy Koku at the time just rang me and he said, Eamon wants to have a chat with you. I'm like, Eamon? He's like, Eamon, Saints chairman. He's like, right, yeah. Would you be interested? Yeah. Obviously, I knew Lee Gilmore were there. He'd been played with Bradford with him and stuff like that. Anyway, I had one conversation. That was it. Nothing really spoke any money. They went back in. Like Rugby League says, if you've got a secret, forget it because everybody knows it. Walk back in. Nobby pulled me. He said, mate, I've heard you've signed for Saints. You should give us an opportunity to re-sign. I was like, mate, I've not signed for anybody. So it's not really. I've had one conversation. That's it. It's gone nowhere. Promise you, not signed anything. So I says, right, where are we at? He says, right, leave it with me. I need to get on with it. Usual games. And anyway, long story short, come back. And I'd got the shits, to be fair. And he says, oh, we're umming and ahhing. I went back in and I says, well, don't worry about it, mate. He says, well, I've signed for Saints. He says, you've had your opportunity, so I've gone. So that one moment of one phone call was like from thinking, last thing I ever want to do. One of the things I can remember of emotional, one of the things people don't realise, and it probably comes back to me as a man, I like to think I'm pretty emotional, which I think should come out in my coaching as well. Start throwing things and stuff like that, especially at the Super League level. But I can remember the last game, 2004, I'd been out with a knee problem, microfractures, all this type of stuff, the story of the ageing players, and I got picked for the grand final after not playing for 3 months. It was a poor call on Richard Moore at the time. So I played, I got 10 minutes in that game, got put on after 20, got took off after 30, never went back on. I got beat by Leeds. That was the start of the Leeds dynasty then when they started rolling. So I felt embarrassed that I'd actually won he'd done that to me, which I wasn't happy about. And but the day after having a beer, Mad Mondays and stuff like that, I can remember it got to a point and I thought, I've had enough of this, I'm going. I went and saw Robbie Paul and said to him, mate, I'm off. I think I actually burst out crying, to be fair, because that was like the end of that era moving forward, if you know what I mean. I was never a big socialiser anyway, but it was a point where I just thought, right, that's it, I need to go, but the emotion got over. And so that was the move from Bradford to Saints, which was a bit of a story there for you.
But I mean, obviously with that, it's a lot of detail in there, like big memories coming to an end, like you said. How did you draw a line under that, and how did you cope with that in your mind to reset and then kick on and win? Like obviously that picture behind you shows Saints.
Oh, yeah, which way? Yeah, that's one of my most favourite pictures I've got. There's another one where my two kids are at Odsall in Bradford Tops, somewhere where they're overlooking the field and stuff. It's a great picture when they were younger. And that's what I was saying to you is that the last two clubs I played at, very, very fortunate because it was very, very family oriented. That helped. One thing as players, now seeing it now as a coach, is if the behind the scenes are happy to an extent where instead of just rolling the red carpet out and give them everything they want, as long as they've got to feel valued amongst it. So that's what they did at Saints, and especially that's what they did at Bradford.
Including your family in that.
That's what I mean. That's more than anything. But we get paid to, whether it's coaching, playing, or whatever it is, we get paid to do a job. And the thing is, more than anything, is I hate to say this, but it's happy wife, happy lifetime mentality. We all know that. We all have them days when the wife's had the cauldron out, it's in for a tough day, isn't it? Or a tough night, or whatever it is. So it's as long as the cauldron don't have to come out, then we're all right. So if you keep
with the game, Paul, as a player, I'm sure, you get yourself into them places mentally where you have to go into a field of battle. But even now, to know as a coach and working rugby league, it's big hours, big days, and you have your family that are there that they're probably suffering.
Yeah, and I think that's one of, just moving on a little bit, the subjects of the here, is that's one of the biggest challenges at the moment. Is one of the things, and everybody's talked about it, and you read all the stuff and talk about how one of the important things is to have routine during lockdown and all this type of stuff. Going from things that's been so regimented in what you do, and from a playing perspective in regards to what you've been told and when you're in and stuff like that, I think it's hard being a player. Nothing. Try and go behind the scenes and do the jobs that we do and have done and stuff like that. Then you know that is actually a challenge. That is a routine. This is what work is all about. Like the bloke who goes and works in the warehouse or the factory or whatever line of work people do where there is routine. That's the challenge, because it can get monotonous as well. It's down to yourself as well, with your own imagination, to keep that fresh for yourself as well as the other players. And that's the thing more than anything, from my point of view at the minute with this lockdown, is that routine. I think it's massive. You don't appreciate it until you've actually lost it in one respect. You have the time to reflect on it. Just when I left Huddersfield, that was about 6 to 8 months of no work and stuff like that. And that period of reflection was massive. I think that's made me appreciate other things more after having that period of reflection, as I call
it. I'm dominating some of these questions, Rob. I do apologise, but I'm gonna pull it out here now, Paul, because you just said it. The Huddersfield, so much success at Huddersfield, and then leaving, as we jump on to a little bit about coaching rather than playing. Leaving as a successful coach, won the what was it called, Rob? They won the what?
League Leaders Shield.
Won league leaders, and as a head coach of Super League, to leave that, and I know you travelled the world a little bit exploring certain things then. How did that period of time impact you as a coach? Has anything changed? If so, what?
On leaving Huddersfield, you mean? From that period?
Yeah, from a coaching career, yeah, to now. I
think one of the things, I did a webinar thing the other day for Rich Tunnelly with the coaching things with RFL, and I genuinely, I talked about me, I think I've been very, very fortunate to be able to be in some positions. I might be underestimating myself, I don't know. I'd like to think I am, but it's when we got the role at Huddersfield as an assistant, it was a massive gamble because I could have kept playing. I had the opportunity to keep going at Saints, but enough was enough. I got the ultimate finish at the right time and made a decision and stuck with it. And going there was probably the right decision. Going there at the time with John Sharp and Kieran Purtle, who was at home now, was brilliant for me, because one of the things as a player going into coaching, what you don't realise is the amount of detail and thought and planning that goes behind it. And I was saying to Rich on this webinar the other day is that John was really, really good for me at that point, because he was so detailed. What are you going to say? What if and he challenged you in different ways, and you come away sometimes. And I think I really struggled without that. The initial bit is going from playing to coaching with the contact elements and stuff like that. I think my home life struggled a little bit because of that, and was frustrated as all hell and all this. But then gradually things settled down. But John was really good, and one of the things I'd come home on a night and think, he's a prick. Why is he doing this? Why is he asking me these questions? Why is he saying this? Why is he saying that? And I know all along it was a challenge. And he always wanted you to be better. And it's one of the things we said was, when he'd go write the session on the wall, we'd go through it, or we'd talk about it. All three of us would be in there, along with Ben Cooper, the S&C, and all that type of stuff. So one of the things we did is, one of the first sessions I was there, completely gone into it blindfolded, if I'm being honest. We were thinking that, right, you've been very, very fortunate as a player. You've played in some good teams. You've been fortunate. You've been lucky. All this type of stuff. You've won things. This is going to be easy. One of the things John said, he says, right, we're going to have a split warm-up. What's your thoughts on a little drill? And I just went, I liked waves. So he's like, right, yep, no worries. You've got waves. And this just shows how naive I was coming from playing to coaching. I was thinking how easy it was going to be. So it got to the point, so I can't remember the exact details. Let's say Coops has got one half of the group, and John and Kieran are still watching it, and I've got the other half of the group, and somebody just goes to me and says, right, are you going to set this up? What do you mean, set it up? Is it not set up? So that's the mentality of a player, isn't it? You just go, oh, so I've got to put the comms down. Is that what you're saying? All right, yeah, coaching now, aren't I? And, mate, if you've ever seen, pardon my language here, but if you've ever seen a waves drill fucked up worse than what I did, in my first day of coaching, it was unreal. It was absolutely ridiculous. Got to the point where Kieran or John or Coops or whatever it was actually took it from me. So I've walked away doing, yeah, there's a bit more to this, isn't there? It was a ridiculous wake-up call. So after that, the biggest thing more than anything is I'm not worried about asking questions, and that probably comes down to being confident with myself as well now, in regards to not worried about saying, well, what are you thinking here? Why would you do that? Or, Danny, we've had mountains of conversations. You just challenge each other off the back of it and ask a million questions. Big believer now in, part of my philosophy, you should be judged by the quality of questions you ask. The other thing back of that, you've got to be able to listen to it, which I know that's a weakness of mine as well. So it was, so going into coaching was, let's just say, wasn't it as easy as what you think it's going to be. Hence the reason probably why there's been so many players who've gone from playing to coaching who failed. I don't say about it. I was probably on the tightrope for a bit there. But I had a bloke there with John and Kieran that helped me and mentored me through it.
Just before you go on to the leaving Huddersfield and then your journey from there into England and the RFL and then where you are now, you mentioned there about challenging your peers, challenging the staff around in questions, and we've done that. You've done that for me, and I think for that to be successful, you need to create a certain environment with your staff. And how do you go? Obviously, when you're challenging somebody, it's a pretty intimidating place to be. How do you create that environment?
I think you've got to give them a question. I think more than anything is that what you realise then now is even going back to that simple waves drill, I was given the opportunity to fail. Then, but if you don't have that opportunity to fail, what opportunity have you got to learn? And that's the thing more than anything is that it's challenging people now. You do it with the academy. Like I was very fortunate to just feel we brought Kieran Pertland, who was a great experienced coach himself. So he challenged me more than him. And there were times there I'm thinking, Kieran, no, go away, leave me alone. Like that, it was good for him. That's not a criticism. That's a real good thing, a trait of his. And I think what you've got to do is I think you've got to like what John did for me. So I can do it now with Chris Rudd at Warrington with the academy. I'll say to him, Ruddy, you've got 40 minutes. Just put the team together, put your session together of some real basic core skill. I just want them to have load of ball around. That's the only thing I want. And then all I do is instead of standing over him and watching what he's doing and stuff like that, I let him take the session, let him do it, and what's your thoughts on that? What did you like about what he did? What would you do better next time? Or then what he does then is part of that reflection again. Is that's not enough people do it. You ask the questions then about what did they do well, who went well, what did he do well, what about you, how did you go, all that type of stuff. You've got to give them the opportunity to fail at some point, and if they don't fail, they'll never learn.
Just on that then, like say, so the early sort of part of your coaching career, what would you say was your coaching philosophy in around there?
I don't know. I got asked this the other week and I don't know. And it's when I first started coaching, or when I got the head coach's job, do you mean?
Yeah, so you'd gone in there from your waves drill, and then obviously from that period to then becoming head coach. How was you?
One of the things there is I worked with John for probably 18 months, and John left. Unfortunately, one of the byproducts of being coach is at some point somebody's going to get sacked, and that happened to John. And I know John protected me a fair bit of this. I know there was probably questions asked. When I first went in there, we lost 7 games straight at Huddersfield. The only difference was me. And my waves drills were that bad that we lost 7 games. And I think John protected me a fair bit because there was probably questions being asked around me at the time, which, if I'm being honest, my input at that point was probably 0.001% of the whole 100 that was there. And it was like a very, very little input on anything. I'd give an opinion if asked. That's the trait as well. Is sometimes if people are failing, you've got to ask the question, do you want my opinion rather than giving it? Team selections and stuff like that, you have an opinion, what's your thoughts? Because one of my things at the minute is that at Huddersfield and stuff like that, I would always bring the physio in. and have a whiteboard on the wall with player magnets and write it up there. And I'd say, like we had Dave O'Sullivan, said, absolute brilliant physio working with England rugby and stuff like that. And I've been to Japan with the World Cup. And said, right then, what's Doss's team this week? I have no issues in asking for people's opinion. Rob, Danny, what's your team this week? All right. Greg Brown, we used to play a 4-4-2 formation with Greg Brown. So he's like the Christmas tree formations when he's putting the team up on the board and all this type of stuff. And it's like, all right, so why are you picking him? Because when you ask them questions, at some point there, you're going to hear something that you've probably not heard before. Oh, really? Interesting, that. Then that makes you think a little bit more. So if you're constantly in your own bubble, then you're going to get blindsided by things. You've got to be able to ask these opinions and stuff. People who don't ask opinions, in my opinion, are probably teetering of either being successful or being very unsuccessful. There's a fine balance there for me. I think just asking these questions and having the ability, and that goes down to challenging your staff again, what you said, I talked about there before. And it's so coming back to my philosophy as a coach and what I've been in the journey. I generally don't think up until probably 2 or 3 years ago when I did actually leave Huddersfield, I actually thought about theories and philosophies. I think philosophy is a big word. We all have ideals and we all have perfect scenarios. We did something the other day with all the Warrington staff. We put a couple of clips, so let's talk about it. And it's amazing to sit back and actually listen to what other people's opinions are. And I got frustrated at points there because I was like, no, you're so wrong here, it's ridiculous. But then I had to remind myself that I've actually asked them to look at this from a point of view of perfection. Because in every coach's mind, there's a level of perfection that we're all looking for. Very rarely do we find it, if ever. But in our minds, when we see something, if we see a clip or whatever it is, he should be here, he should be there, he should be doing this, he should run to that shoulder, he should do that. That's perfection. That's the level that we're all trying to attain, but very, very rare because we're not out there under that pressure. And we're doing it, and I was getting frustrated by doing it because you're looking at it and you think, what you're on about here, perfection doesn't exist. What could we do differently? That's the question you need to be asking. What would they do differently? And that's something in regards to philosophy. I can remember it at the beginning there at Huddersfield. We'd got a good team, being honest. Hard-working, honest team that wanted to rewrite the story about them. The previous stories of Huddersfield Giants was basically, yeah, they're all right, they're good, but at some point they'll give in. So we was very, very fortunate that obviously my previous career I'd had impact with some real high profile people, and they were still playing. So one of the things was me, about this asking questions, I made about 4 or 5 phone calls to people, high profile players who I'd played with and against, and asked them, this goes no further, there'll be no names goes to it, and when I want your honest opinion of Huddersfield Giant. Tell us what you think. Tell me what you think. I'm not going to be offended by anything, because that's the other thing as well. If you ask questions, you can't be offended, can you? You can't ask me a question and I'll go, no, you're wrong, you're a prick, that's shit. You've got to think about it and go, actually, what I think is our strength is actually our weakness or something like that. And it's, yeah, so there, and some of the things like coming out were full of big plays. I think they're working hard, but they're not. They'll give in at some point. They'll give you a chance. A lot of strong, really strong things that were said. And I was like, Jesus, this is not a coaching philosophy. This is about management and trying to actually, it's a mental approach to actually break that mentality. And like I said, I was very fortunate that we had Carl Morris there, Kieran was there, so a lot of good people. So going back to the stories, we asked them the question. We asked them, what's the perceptions of rugby league about you? And do you know the surprising thing? The players come up with the same stuff. So actually, it helps because they're thinking the same as well. As you said, look, I'm not putting names to it, but this is what other people think. Is this a coincidence? So the question that we asked was, how do we continue that story? So how do we continue being like this? And like, we don't want to. Well, you don't want to be that, so what are we going to do to make sure we don't do it? So there's a lot of other things. So the mantra for us in the first couple of years is, which story do we want to create? We want to keep creating the old story, or do we want to start writing our new? Because the book of Huddersfield Giants will go from 18, whatever it was, however old the club is, for another 100 years, if not more. So the story, the book will never be finished in regards to a sports club. our chapters and our little segments within this book and our pages and our words that we put on it are going to have a profound effect on where we want to go as a team and then obviously then as a club. And that was the thing that we did. We broke it down on what story you want to create. And one of the things more than anything, which on reflection is more, I can remember being a prick in video sessions. I can remember being understanding, accepting, all the types of things. But I can also remember one thing where with the left edge there with Danny Brough, Joe Wardle, Brett Ferris, Aaron Murphy, all great players, all good professionals, all challenging in their own different ways. And Brett Ferris coming out of yard, and I wanted him to execute skill. And he tried to come up with an offload, and he come up with the error. And this is one of the responses I can remember from my point of view was, right, so I've got no issues in what you've tried to do. So what do we need to do now to make sure when that opportunity comes again that we get a better outcome? And it was interesting. If somebody who played Great Britain and England and all that type of stuff, he didn't really know the answer. It was like, you need to practice that. You need to practice that skill. So if you're a back row that likes to get your ball in one hand and promote the ball and whatever, that's great, do it. But also have the skill to make good decisions and bring the ball back and all this type of stuff. And it was like that one conversation in a video room, then that's made me start changing my philosophy in regards to practice, the game, what you should be seeing. How do you see it? Because if it didn't change, I think I wouldn't even be in the position I'm in now, because it's the game and my coaching philosophies would have been the same as everybody else's, which then it's just like picking somebody out. It's like counting sheep. You just got to pick somebody out and pull them out, rather than just probably trying to be a bit different in regards to the coaching philosophies. And that, I think that was the start then of me starting to actually have some theory and philosophy and thinking about it.
What does that look like? You said you just started to change in about, like, you know, the game, what it looks like, and maybe challenging practice to be a bit more real time. What does that practice look like?
Put more time into that individual, putting more time into helping them scenario based, grip stuff, catch pass stuff, scenario based stuff. One of the things I love at the minute is chaos. I love it. 7v4, 7v5 games, 8v5, mixing numbers up, making sure offense can, and making sure that rather than, I had it with England last year, and one of the players purposely, I said to Niall Leavals at fullback, I said, I want you to leave only 4 people in half the field defensively, and he did. And the halfback at the time just worried about getting to a post to put a big play on, rather than going, actually, there's only 4 blokes in front of me here with R4. I've got this big back row centre winger. All I need to do is get a mismatch in and walk in for a try. All I need to do, rather than worrying about find me outside of that far post and we'll put this play on coming back. No, open your eyes, have a look in front of you, realise what you've got, and go, right, I'll get a mismatch here. So one of the things I was talking about there with ball player, isolate 4 man to put your back row on 3 man. So our left edge there with Brett Ferris, but he could run different lines. Danny Brough would get the ball, his speed, change of speed and stuff like that, and his ability to straighten up. The amount of one-on-ones that Brett Ferris got, which then allowed him to promote the ball, allowed him to run through, allowed him to score tries, do all sorts of different stuff. Just by a simple theory there of just seeing, playing what was in front of him, big spaces, mismatches, and then being having good skill to execute off the back of it. It's a massive part of the game. I think the simple way to put my philosophy in place at the minute is in offence. I think there's a lot of negotiables, because we can always say and see different things. The non-negotiables is in defence. The systems and structures and stuff like that, I think, in my opinion, are gold standard that I think we all know. It's just the quality of practice and the quality of understanding that you get across that makes it better. It's a simple way of looking at things, and that's probably, like I say, the way the game should be played. Now I am now. I think it all comes back to a point where we go, actually, you're right, you should be doing that. You should be trying to offload. But why didn't you? Why did it not come off? I've not seen you practice it for a month. Is that why? We need to get back to doing some basic stuff as a coach and stuff like that. And our training philosophy, we're getting ahead of ourselves. We're doing too much big picture rather than actually putting a lot of time into the detail, the grip, the catch, the pass, all the other stuff that's around it. It's, fortunately, too many people don't see any of that. Don't see enough of it.
What you're talking about there, and how you know trying to bring it all together there is I think you showed some massive signs of quality leadership. You know, being able to at Huddersfield there is what the people see us like and what we want to see ourselves. That's the end goal. You're giving them the picture of, not particularly you giving them it, you're creating autonomy. You're involving them players and the staff to go, this is what we all agree with, this is what we're seeing. You're just the guy that's leading the way to get that. Allowing them to make mistakes on that journey, understanding that's part of the process, and then ultimately get what you got when you're head coach there. And
I think,
how you're go on, Paul, sorry.
No, just on what you're saying there, I think, and I know this myself now, this reflection again, it's massive. I know myself that we changed, and because without realising it, knowing that this is my philosophy, this is my ideals, I'm not saying that word because it's a shit word in my mind. I've got to remember where I'm from Halfacres in Castleford, and that word's never been used on that stage. So it's all our ideals of how the game should be played. And I know myself is that changed. Because Andy Kelly said something when he came in. From when he came in, he said to me, and he didn't say it, sorry, but he said it towards the end, is that he was honest with me, which is great. And he went, mate, this team hasn't got your, it's not got you in it. It's not got your identity. It's not got your, what's the word I'm looking for? I said it the other day. Personality. This team's not got your personality all over it in the things that we're saying here now. It had too much structure. Now, on my coaching journey now, I can remember looking back and thinking, right, pre-season now, we've had year one, we've done well, fallen short in the big game, in the big dance, didn't get to the grand final, which for a club like Huddersfield, making a grand final and potentially obviously putting yourself in a position to win it would have been massive. Winning the league leaders, I massively understated it, because I thought, as a player, I've done it that many times. It wasn't until I actually left Huddersfield and started putting a CV together. I think I've won it 7 times as a player. It was like 8th time as a coach, or first time as a coach, 8th time in total. No biggie this. The reality is for Huddersfield as a club that's massive. I didn't celebrate it enough. The players certainly did, but I didn't. I played it down too much. But from day one, year 1 to year 2 to year 3 to year 4 to year 5, or however long we were there, the team and my personality, the players' personality coming out, we gradually did this. It became too much structure. Does that make sense? You've got to get, just going against everything what I've just said there about when I was with England last year. Why have you not taken that? Or why have you taken that? You need to get here to put this type of player on. So my mentality, without realising it, changed massively. And it's not until sometimes, obviously, I don't think I'm a smart human being. Sometimes I need to be able to step back to be able to see what's in front of you. You can't see the wood for the trees. And it wasn't until we left, and I remember reflecting on Andy Kelly saying that to me, and I thought, you know, something is bang on. You've gone against here what you think your ideals of the game are, without really thinking about the ideals, philosophies, whatever it is. And you'd gone away from it. And that's why you sat here now. When I left Huddersfield, I wanted to leave. I'd been and talked about leaving many, many times. If they didn't back me, they needed to sack me. So when that did come around, I was happy. I was happy. My wife wasn't, because it's the first time really in our lives that we've been unemployed, which that's a scary thought as well.
Investing all that experience in some young kids at Warrington now, they've got the benefit of that, which is fantastic for them and the club.
Yeah, it's like I said, I think I said it earlier, Danny, is that you're not telling them because a book tells you that's what you've got to say. You're telling them because you've probably lived that life and you've probably made that mistake many more times than they even thought about it. So you're telling them through some eyes that have got it right. Like Huddersfield, many, many things we've got right, and there's many, many things we've got wrong. But as players now, as young players, there's too many other influences in them that making them realise, and they can't fight their own battles, if being honest. Somebody's got to fight them for them. And there's too many distractions in and around things to actually realise that actually he's trying to help me here. Does that make sense? I'm not putting any of our players in the spotlight here or anything like that, but there's been challenges along the way with young players. Especially, I think the biggest challenge was me with young players to start with. And doing the England stuff and actually working with yourself and Danny and working on them programmes and pathways probably helped me get ready to do this. And there's been periods there where I probably have treated them like performance players rather than development. But I don't think in the big picture that's a bad thing, really. You've still got to have that understanding of the consequences of mistakes and errors that they make on and off the field. it's challenging. I'm probably in the most enjoyable part of my career at the moment. It's not the most rewarding financially and all that type of stuff. Super League's where the things are, but this is the most enjoyable part with the balance with home and work and all that type of stuff. It probably helps them a little bit longer in the tooth. Kids are a bit older, so we ain't got all the pressures, but coaching these young players at Warrington, it's really, really enjoyable, and especially looking at a club that has the ability to sign great English, but also underneath that is a driven passion to try and produce its own players. So it's they've done that by bringing obviously Pete in and myself to try and make things better for them.
They're on that journey out there of learning and development, like you said, in your coaching career now. You've touched on certain things as we've gone through. What's the one big area now that you're really focusing on yourself in terms of improvement?
For myself?
Yeah, as a coach.
At the moment, it's actually coaching. I want to coach. That's not happening at the minute. The wife's, I'm sick of playing football around the table with the salt and pepper pots. But she's not happy with that. Her marker plays poor at the minute. I need to work on that. She couldn't get her head in tight enough. But we can all throw that as wives, can't we? So it's, I think more than anything, I think from my point of view, I'd like to think I'm organised. I like to think I would understand the detail. I'd like to think I'm patient. As I've got older, I've become more patient. If previously I would be jumping off the rails and snapping at everything and stuff like that, I'm now probably a glass half full type mentality. Let's just chill a little bit here. Let's have a reflect. Let's have a look at this. But I think more than anything, I've got to get my bite back. Got to get that good balance right. But from my point of view as a coach, I just want to improve. I want to be around good people, which is where we're at. I'm confident where I'm at the minute with the good people I'm around. I'm confident with the England stuff. Got good people around that. England, the senior grade, they're in a good place. That obviously when they get going, I think they've got in Wayne, they've got a real good leader there. Got a real passionate man for our country as well as our game. And the game's in the right hands that way, which I'm going along with that. And at Warrington, Steve Pricey and Pete Ryden and people like that, they were instrumental in bringing me across there. And working with good people, good environments, I think that's the key more than anything. And challenge and change. Unfortunately, some people rebel against it if they don't like it. It's unfortunate sometimes, isn't it?
Just on the back of that, what would you say is your biggest regret or your biggest achievement in the game?
I think obviously you've got to look at winning silverware with Huddersfield, first time in 80-something years. But then also my biggest regret is probably not celebrating that like I touched on before. It's I think that's one thing. I think do you know one of the biggest things I've got in my career, and it's nothing to do with football. I've obviously been a rather large human being all my career. I've been absolutely hammered and ruined by strength and conditioners and stuff like that. And the biggest tip I can give to players at the minute is you've got to stay active. It took me 10 years to start getting active after playing, even though I was a coach. And coaching's, if you want it to be, can be active. If it's not, it doesn't have to be. But I'm fortunate I've still got all my fingers and toes and stuff like that, but the joints that are around them are a little bit creaking. It took me 10 years to actually start getting active again. And about 3 years ago, me and the wife, we started talking. And I got weighed, and I weighed 145 kilos. So I was like, who've you eaten here? I was like, what's going on? So actually then, starting to get active and moving again, that's the biggest thing. I'd like to think that I'm in a good place at the minute physically. I feel all right. I'm very, very active. I'm probably more active now than probably was as a player. Which me and Lisa, wife, we went for a walk. We walk all the time. I'm going after when we've done this. I'm off on a bike ride with my lad, and it's there's more fitness and energy equipment in our house now than there probably ever was done when I was a professional player. I regret would be is not being active enough. Going from playing to coaching, you put the hours in. As a coach, I was the first in, last out. So the gates and the doors, I'd be somebody beat me and I'd have the shits. So there's periods obviously when later in the night when other teams are in around facilities and whatever, then that's fair enough. But I would always want my staff, if you've done, go. I'm not keeping you here for forever. Remember once had a debate with Nathan Brown. Brown is one of the best coaches you'll ever work with. He was massive for me with the detail of the game. Rather than John was good in organisation, Brownie just opened my eyes massively to. He was a point there where I think I'd be like, when I first started with him, it was like, I'm probably like these 16-year-old academy players are now with me. What's he talking about? I've no idea. That's been my journey with young players, with senior men and stuff like that. There's an assumption that they understand things because of the history and the training history. These kids have got no training history. And when you're talking to a young outside back about how he's catching the ball and stuff like that, and they're just looking at you going, just let him just catch it. And it's like, yeah, but there's different things that we can work with here to make things more consistent for yourself and stuff. And that's what it was like for me with Brownie. I was like, what are you on about here? He was on about like why he's not taking this, why he's not doing that. His hips turned out, and why is he not running? And this is all going on within a game or whatever. And I'm like, then actually sit with him and do video sessions. And I was like, mate, I'm not seeing the same game as you. And I think that's why I think we worked well together, where he had all these things where I would just go, mate, no, you're kidding yourself. You wind your neck in here a little bit. All that type of stuff. But the detail he'd go into massively helped me, even like to the point where people hold the ball, how they're going to pass it. I want options of all ways, hold the ball one way rather than holding it three ways. That makes sense. And people have got tells in how they're going to tip the ball, they're going to play long, they're going to play short, all that type of detail, approach from dummy half, deception and all that. And I was like, never ever as a player I would actually think about anything like that. I was just, give me the ball, let me run. Give me it early, I want it off the floor. That type of stuff for Brownie was absolutely massive for me in regards to that detail. And he was a good bloke as well. But going back to the original point, Brownie and Tanya, they'd got 100 kids. They'd got 4 kids, and he had his 4th Jackson while he was over here. And there's only one place in the world he could not work, and that was at home. So every day off, we were all in the office and stuff like that. And we were in there getting everything ready and stuff. And I just said to him one day, he says, mate, all my package is done here. Do you want to have a look through it? Which is your right as head coach. Take that out, add that in, all that type of stuff, because we had a presentation the next day. And he just went, oh, I'm just going to go boxing for an hour. I said, well, if you're not looking at it now, I won't be here in an hour, I'm going. Anyway, he went boxing and we come back, I wasn't there. So we had a fair debate the next day, but that made me realise that, look, talking about your staff and things like that, it's like with Kieran. We'd talk about one or two things. I felt confident where he was at, and some of the stuff I've had as well is that, yeah, I'm confident with that. Yeah, have you got that clip in? Yeah, no worries, right. Well, I don't need to go over everything with you. I trust you to be able to do the right thing. And it's that formed that with me where if you need to come in, if it's a player off or anything like that, no, I'll work from home then. Work from home. I'll Skype you later, as it used to be back then. There was no FaceTime back then and stuff. So I'll Skype you later and send you stuff across, and we'll have a chat about it in the morning. So let them work when they worked, but then also let them, if they were done, like if it just feel if we finished at 1 o'clock and they want to be on by 2, I'd got no issues with that. No issues at all, as long as the work's done and the outcomes are good. I'm happy with that. So no question there. I've forgot it again. But
to be fair, you're pulling things out of there. It's really good to Nathan Brown and how good obviously he was and the reason why. I think you've touched on that stuff. You've probably given us a bit more than the question that actually asks. I think probably just to wrap up, there's probably 2 questions we've got left, and that's probably more for the people that are watching this. Ultimately, the first one would be if you could ask any player or coach, past or present, any question. And it doesn't necessarily have to be rugby league, it could be any sport. What would it be and why?
Well, tough one that, don't I? I'll tell you what I think as well. I'm currently watching The Last Dance with Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
I'm currently watching that now. It'd be easy to go to people like him, but I think the drive that players like him or people like him have had, and then had the ability or the confidence, I know finances and stuff like that, it makes things easier. But for him in his prime to walk away from a sport, to go try another sport, I think that's ballsy.
Yeah.
And then to actually have the ability to come back to your original sport and kill it again, I think that's just It's just unreal. And then that drive then to then become not only a multi-million-dollar sportsman, but then to become a multi-billion-dollar sportsman after, probably 20 years after you've retired. That takes some doing. I know he's not human. He had some frailties and failings as people and stuff like that. But the one thing you can never challenge people like that is their drive. So I'd probably want to know more about what motivates them. It's easy with money and stuff like that. But when you've got money, surely money doesn't motivate you. It's easy come, easy go. That's probably why people think he's got a gambling problem, because losing $1 million doesn't mean anything. He's probably made 10 million while he's lost that 1 million.
That's it. I think when you're watching that last dance with him, I spoke to Rob about this, and I'd be interested in is it Stephen Kerr? Is it the other guy? And how he handles certain moments in his stuff. But going back to Michael Jordan, what impresses me about him is he's explicit with what he's going to do, and he does it, like, to put something out there and say you're going to do something. That takes nuts, and then to back it up as well. How do you cope with that pressure, saying how good you're going to be and then go and do it?
It's ballsy to do that. It's ballsy. I'd never have that. I would never be confident enough, probably in myself, to be fair, because he's not worried about it. You look at that initially about his teammates, he was so selfish, it was ridiculous. So going through what drives him to then turn, obviously he'd got the coach that believed in him and tried to educate him. Then he's gone from being all about him to all about us. So that switch, the drive to obviously want to win to start with, and then on reflection and some help from obviously Phil Jackson, I think it is, he educated him to realise, it's like the Muhammad Ali, it's me, we thing. So to then actually realise that actually you can make these better and people thought he was a prick, didn't they? When you're listening to him, people think you're a prick. But actually now on reflection, like we keep talking about, he actually realised that actually he made me better. We were never going to get to Michael Jordan level, but we tried and it made us all better. Then ultimately, the 3 on the trot and is it 5 in 7 or whatever it is, it speaks for itself. And then to have the drive as well to keep going and becoming a multi-billion-dollar former athlete as it is now. I think it's impressive, very impressive. I just like to know how we could smoke so many cigars and keep playing at that level. That'd be interesting.
How much them cigars cost? That's what I'll be thinking about.
that drive when you've got everything and you probably need nothing to still have that drive. It's massive.
Yeah.
How many people?
We'll do that for you. We'll get in touch with Big MJ and we'll ask him that question for you.
You're next. I'm a precursor.
Even before you, but you're usually the
we just haven't released it. Just off the back of that, like I say, we're speaking about, we'll be asking everybody, and you've touched on it as well already about chaos within your coaching, but what is your best drill or sort of go-to activity and why? So, don't say it's waves because it'd be.
I've not done it since 2003. No, I think simpler the better. Simpler things are better. Repetitive, simple things, they're the key. I love, like I said to you before, you can't do it all the time. But if I was stuck with something, and there's times as coaches your mind can go blank, and that's why we have session plans and scribbles everywhere and stuff like that. The mind goes blank and things mess up. And one of the things I love playing is these young players love playing games. They love playing games. So the facilities at Warrington got, and I touched on this the other week with, I think when we have fields, and all this is the thing is we talk about facilities and what have you, I think the smaller the facility you have, the better you should be as a coach. Because your imagination is then the problem. So if you have an area, if you have a piece of grass that's 30 by 30 metres wide, what that stops you from doing is thinking about bigger picture structure. It makes you realise, actually, I'll break this down. Let me break the game down and let me do what I do. How can I play a game? How can I replicate something in a game in this space? Tell you what, I'll play a 7v4 game. You're only allowed one marker. This time now, we'll change it over. You've got 5 defenders, you've got to have 2 markers. You've got to go front, back, front. You've just got to go front. 2-hand touch, the defence have got to go on the floor, all this type of stuff. So constantly just changing the rules and challenging them. And don't make mistakes. That's what it's designed for. That's what that chaos is about, because them scenarios then, we can never ever replicate what happens on the field. But that's as near as damn it, that type of chaos. So it makes them think about all the unstructured stuff that you've done. If he gets to hear this is the line you should run, all this type of stuff, your shoulder, I'm thinking out here, I'm communicating under pressure, not under a sterile environment where, right, we've got to play the ball there, we've got A, B, C, dummy half, I want you to get to B and I want to lead inside C or outside or at C or whatever it is. That's a sterile play, which we all play them plays. My simple theory on the game is we all do the same shit, just yours will smell different to mine. It's as simple as that. And we all try and do the same things, but just that chaos. What if he doesn't get to C? What if he gets to, what if he doesn't get to B? What if he gets to A? What do I do? Oh, well, right, because you've not practiced some chaos type stuff. And I think it's massive. Little 5v4, bust through pads, have somebody jump on top of you, you've got to get the pass away, all that type of stuff. But my go-to would be small-sided games and lopsided games in regards to numbers, to create and get people to get their eyes up and see where people are. Because that's a trait in the game at the minute that we no longer have. We're too busy about finding a post to put a play on. Just one fire, I know I can witter on a bit here, but we played an academy game before this, and there was a double header with reserves. And Benny Westwood was there watching. He just said to me, missing it. He went, missing it? Why would you miss? Benny, get to me to post. And it's like, it's a fair point, that. And that's straight away, obviously, when people say things and stuff like that, and you think about it, and somebody who's probably played through an era where, when he was younger, where, hey boys, there's the ball, go play. So then to probably with different coaches that he's played with at Warrington throughout the 100 years he's probably been there, and how things change all the time. And that's not a shot at Steve Price, that's probably build up a legacy of everything that's gone throughout what's been there. And that's his transition from an edge to a middle, get me to a post. So why would I miss that? I thought, something bang on. Now, our philosophy is at Warrington with the academy, we have one tap start and one scrum play, and that's it. That's all we do. Off back of what you create off that first involvement, then that dictates what you do next, rather than worrying about getting to the point. If it does break down, we just ask him to find somewhere and think shape over structure. Rather than we're in shape, fall into shape naturally. Should you wait to tackle three so everyone's behind the ball to play? Or if you've got shape and they're all tightened up, can we move the ball on one to get them? I'm telling you now, Hull Academy will know what's going to come, won't they? So that's the thing is to play what you see. Play unstructured games allows you to do that.
Fantastic. Sweet. Well, let's probably just start wrapping up there. First, from my point of view, I think it's been outstanding insight. Just to experience both as a player and a coach, and your journey. I think it's massive for any coach or for any player to listen to. And obviously that view of this. So thanks for coming on.
Appreciate it. Thank you, fellas.
Yeah, no, cheers, Paul. Thank you for your time. I hope you enjoy your bike ride. I'm sure your missus will beat you.
It's not enough now. We're out going out on a bike.
Well, put your feet up there and have a little bit of a rest. All right, well, thank you very much for coming on. I appreciate that, Paul. You take care during this period, mate.
Good stuff. Stay to you, fellas.